My name is Marilyn Keene, 34 years old. The night it happened, I'd just finished a 12-hour pediatric shift that felt like a marathon run underwater. The hospital hummed in that post-Christmas haze, sterile lights, the scent of disinfectant, and the constant buzz of machines pretending to care more than people. I remember leaning against the nurse's station, drinking coffee that tasted like copper, picturing my daughter, Alice, in a sparkly red sweater, frosting on her cheeks, waiting at my parents' dining table. That image, messy and sweet, was the rope I was holding on to. By the time I pulled into their snow-covered street, the storm had returned. Wind scraped against the windshield, and flakes swirled under the street lamps like ghosts of undone plans. The house glowed through the blizzard, too perfect, too quiet. Something in me hesitated before I even knocked. Inside, the air felt wrong. No music, no laughter, no smell of pie, just the slow clink of dishes. My mother stood at the sink, still in her pearl earrings, stacking plates like she was closing a restaurant. My sister Vanessa leaned on the counter, scrolling her phone. "Where's Alice?" I asked, setting my bag down. They looked at each other. It was half a second, but full of meaning. "Oh," Vanessa said without looking up. "She went home." "Home?" I blinked. "With who?" My mother didn't even glance at me. "We all decided she should leave. She needed a lesson." At first, I thought I'd misheard her over the dishwasher hum. "You sent her out?" "She knows the way," my mother said coolly. "It's not far. It's dark. She'll be fine." The words hit like a physical thing. Cold, metallic, absurd. My pulse started hammering. "She's 7. Vanessa's voice sharpened. "You're overreacting again. You always make drama out of discipline." Something in me snapped. The kind of silence that isn't calm but catastrophic filled the room. I grabbed my coat and keys, my movements almost mechanical. I didn't even say goodbye. Outside, the cold bit hard, punishing. The streets were empty, the snow already covering footprints. My car fishtailed down the block as I scanned the sidewalks, headlights slicing through the storm. Every shadow looked like her. Every second, a new horror bloomed. What if a car didn't see her? What if she'd tried to cross the avenue? Halfway home, I started bargaining with reality. Maybe they walked her back. Maybe she's already inside. Maybe I'm just panicking because I always do. Then I turned the corner, and the hope died. There she was, small and still under the flickering porch light, her breath making fragile clouds in the air. Her mittens were soaked. Her face was streaked with melted snow, or tears. When she saw me, she didn't run. She just whispered, "You were at work." I got out before the car stopped moving. "You're safe now," I said, but my voice sounded far away. I wrapped my coat around her and carried her upstairs. Inside, the apartment was dim and warm. I wrapped her in a blanket, rubbed her hands until the color returned. "Tell me what happened," I asked softly. Her voice was tiny. "Aunt Vanessa said I was bad. Everyone was mad. They told me to go home." "Why?" She hesitated. "Because I wouldn't let Ethan play with my new toy. He breaks things." Her eyes filled again. "They said I wasn't part of the family if I couldn't share." A bruise, just a faint shadow, marked her cheek. "You did nothing wrong," I said. She nodded but didn't believe me. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "For what?" "For ruining Christmas." That nearly broke me. I smoothed her hair back. "You didn't ruin anything. They did." She fell asleep, still clutching the edge of the blanket like it was proof the world hadn't disappeared. I sat there for a long time, staring at the quiet. My hands were shaking, but not from cold. The heater's hum filled the space where words should have been. I replayed everything, my mother's tone, Vanessa's indifference, the way they made cruelty sound like order. It wasn't new. I'd grown up in that same script. Strict, not mean. That was Mom's line whenever someone cried at dinner. She had a genius for rebranding pain. Discipline, not anger. Lessons, not punishment. And Vanessa? She learned the system early. Smile right, say, "Yes, ma'am," and the lightning moves. I was the one it struck. I used to think I'd escaped it. Degrees, career, distance, they all felt like progress. But tonight I realized I'd just outsourced it to my daughter. I couldn't breathe sitting still. So I stood, grabbed my phone, and called Vanessa. She picked up on the second ring, her voice syrup smooth. "Hey, you found her." "What exactly happened tonight?" A sigh. "She was out of control. I disciplined her. She'll survive." "Disciplined?" "Don't start, Marilyn. You spoil that kid. She was ruining dinner. We were just trying to make her understand boundaries." I let silence do the talking. "You're making that face," she said finally. "The judgy one." I ended the call. In the hush that followed, I looked at Alice sleeping, cheeks soft again, breathing steady. The bruise caught the lamplight, and something inside me went absolutely still. They called it discipline. They called it love. Whatever it was, it ended tonight. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. But as snow buried the streets outside, I started making plans. People don't turn cruel overnight. They practice. They rehearse it until it feels like virtue. I should have known. They'd done it to me for years. I stared at the phone on the table. 3 new messages blinked from my mother. She's fine. You overreacted. Don't make this bigger than it is. I muted the thread. At the edge of the living room window, the neighbor's doorbell camera glowed red. Tiny. Constant. Recording without caring. A meaningless detail. Or maybe not. I made a mental note to ask about it later, though I didn't yet know why. For now, I tucked the blanket tighter around Alice and whispered, "No one will ever teach you a lesson like that again." Somewhere in the city, my mother was probably pouring another glass of wine, satisfied that order had been restored. Vanessa was likely composing her version of events for the family group chat, and me, I was sitting in the dark, memorizing the exact feeling of this moment. Because 3 hours from now, their lives would start to unravel. Morning came slow, like the world was still deciding whether to start again. I watched Alice eat cereal in her pajamas, the bruise fading, but not gone. Her silence louder than any scream. She traced circles in the milk with her spoon, eyes fixed on nothing. Kids learn quiet fast when the world teaches it loud. "Hey," I said gently, forcing a smile. "You know what we're doing today?" She shook her head. "We're going to talk to someone about what happened." Her spoon froze midair. "Like who?" "The police." Her eyes widened. "Am I in trouble?" "No," I said, kneeling so we were eye level. "You didn't do anything wrong. We're doing this because people should answer for what they do." She nodded slowly, uncertain but trusting. That trust hurt and healed me at the same time. At the precinct, the air smelled like burnt coffee and old paper. Holiday hangover silence. A young officer behind the desk looked up when we entered. "Can I help you?" "I'm Dr. Marilyn Keene," I said, voice steady. "I need to file a report. My daughter was struck and left outside alone last night." He blinked. "By who?" "My sister." He hesitated. "Your sister?" "Family doesn't make it less serious." He nodded, typing quickly, eyes darting between me and Alice. "You're very brave to come in, sweetheart," he told her softly. Alice straightened her shoulders. "I know." Her voice was small but sure. I felt something shift. When it was over, he promised the report would go on record, that someone would follow up. I didn't expect miracles, but I wanted it written down somewhere that this happened, that my child's pain existed in ink, not just memory. Outside, the air was sharp, almost cleansing. Alice squeezed my hand. "You weren't mad at me?" "Why would I be mad?" "Because I made you go there." I shook my head. "You didn't make me. You deserve to know that when someone hurts you, there's a way to say it out loud." She thought about it for a long time. "So, they're in trouble now?" "Eventually," I said. "Trouble's slow, but it always shows up." That night, after I tucked her in, I sat down with my laptop. The glow of the screen felt colder than the snow outside. My bank app opened with a familiar rhythm. Numbers, transfers, recurring payments, lines of quiet guilt. Vanessa's monthly tuition payment for Ethan's soccer academy. Cancel. Cora's ballet lessons. Cancel. Mom's wellness retreat. A spa in Palm Springs with more cocktails than therapy. Cancel. Each click felt like oxygen returning to my lungs. For years, I'd paid them like tithes to a cruel church. Now, for the first time, the money in my account belonged to me. The phone rang. "Hey," Vanessa started, pretending casual. "Weird thing. Ethan's soccer payment didn't go through. Can you check your bank?" "No need," I said. "I canceled it." "You what?" Her voice sharpened. "You can't just do that. They'll drop him from the team." "Then pay it yourself." "Marilyn, this is ridiculous. You're making a child suffer because you're mad at me." "You're right," I said calmly. "I am mad at you. But that's not why I stopped paying. I just learned not to give my money to people who hit my kid." "You're teaching Alice to be selfish," she snapped. "Maybe," I said. "Or maybe I'm teaching her that no means no." There was silence, then a shaky exhale. "You'll regret this." "Maybe," I said again and hung up. 20 minutes later, the phone rang again. My mother this time. No greeting, just fury. "What is this nonsense about you canceling payments? Do you know how humiliating this is for your sister?" "I'm sure she'll survive." "She's family, Marilyn. You don't turn your back on blood." I noticed. "What about me?" Her voice rose, brittle as glass. What about my treatments? That's not treatment, Mom. That's a vacation. If you want a tan, pay for it yourself. How dare you talk to me like that after everything I've done for you? You mean raising me? Yes. I smiled to myself. Maybe that's the problem. Static silence filled the line. Then came her favorite phrase, one that had haunted my childhood like a hymn. Ungrateful child, you'll regret this. Click. I didn't. By evening, my phone looked like a crime scene. 27 missed calls, 14 voicemails, all labeled family. I turned it face down and left it there. Alice padded into the room, holding a drawing. 2 stick figures, one tall, one small, both smiling. Can I put this on the fridge? Of course, I said. She hesitated. Mom, are you in trouble for going to the police? No, sweetheart, I said softly. I think they are. Her smile was small, but real. She taped it up, crooked and perfect. The apartment felt lighter, like someone had finally turned off a noise I hadn't realized was constant. For years, I'd paid for quiet. Turns out silence was free. The peace lasted exactly 3 days. The envelope was sitting in my mailbox, large, official, the kind of beige that means bad news. State Medical Board was printed across the top. My pulse spiked. Inside was a complaint, words twisted to make me unrecognizable. Abuse, instability, unfit to work with children. At the bottom, signatures, Vanessa and my mother. I sat down hard, the letter shaking in my hands. They hadn't just come for me. They'd come for the one thing I'd built that they couldn't touch. Alice wandered in with her sketchbook. Mom, why do you look weird? Because your grandma and your aunt just accused me of being dangerous to kids. Her eyes went wide. But you help kids. Exactly. She frowned, thinking, her child logic fierce and pure. Are they going to win? I smiled faintly. No, but they'll try. That night, I called my lawyer, Michael Adler, a man who spoke in calm sentences that made panic sound optional. He listened quietly as I explained, then said, We'll respond. Do you have evidence? Oh, I have plenty, I said. Police report, bank records, texts, everything. Good, this will take time. The board moves slow, but facts win eventually. Slow, always slow. After the call, I stared at my phone, thumb hovering over a saved draft of a message to the hospital HR director, explaining preemptively, trying to control the story. Then I stopped. No, not yet. I opened my file drawer instead, pulled out every receipt, every statement, every photo where they smiled over gifts my money had bought. I spread them across the table like evidence at a crime scene. And through the window, the city lights blinked in quiet rhythm. Somewhere in the hall, I noticed it again, the faint red glow of the neighbor's doorbell camera, flickering on when motion passed. I wondered if it had seen Alice that night, if maybe justice had a witness already waiting. But for now, I took a deep breath, gathered the papers into neat stacks, and whispered to no one. They wanted a war. Fine, but this time, I'm writing the rules. The following weeks crawled by like molasses over glass. Every day was some version of waiting. Emails from the medical board marked in review. Calls from Michael ending with, please be patient. Patience had never been my gift. I saved lives on a clock. I wasn't built for bureaucracy. But this wasn't about saving anyone. It was about surviving my own family. The hospital tried to stay professional, but gossip has a smell, and I could sense it before I saw it. Colleagues suddenly paused their laughter when I walked into the break room. Someone asked if I was doing okay in that soft tone people reserve for funerals and scandals. I smiled, nodded, went back to charting vitals. On the surface, I was fine. Inside, I was unraveling thread by thread. Mom was posting cryptic Facebook statuses, things like ungrateful daughters destroy the homes that raised them, and Vanessa was worse. She painted herself as a victim, posting filtered family photos captioned, when love is twisted into lies. A few of my cousins liked the posts. It shouldn't have hurt, but it did. Family is supposed to be your first language. Betrayal is learning. They've been mistranslating you for years. I stayed quiet until I didn't. One night, after scrolling through the digital circus of half-truths and pity parties, I opened a blank postbox and typed slowly. For clarity, a complaint has been filed against me by 2 relatives I recently reported for endangering my child and from whom I withdrew financial support. The matter is under review. I have complete confidence in the outcome. No drama, no names, just truth. Then I hit post and logged off. By morning, the comments were pouring in. Parents of my patients, nurses, old classmates. We know who you are. We stand with you. Someone wrote, "You don't owe anyone your silence anymore." I hadn't realized how heavy silence was until it lifted. That afternoon, Michael called. "We'll need any corroborating evidence you haven't sent yet. Messages, photos, recordings, anything." I thought of the hallway camera, that small, indifferent red dot blinking through my window. I grabbed my coat and crossed the hall. The neighbor, Mr. Alvarez, opened the door, cautious but kind. He was retired, always polite in passing, the kind of man who shoveled everyone's steps before his own. "Sorry to bother you," I said. "Do you still have footage from Christmas night?" His brows drew together. "Footage?" "Your doorbell camera. I think it might have caught something important." He hesitated. "Is this about your little girl? I heard—" I nodded. "She was left outside that night, alone." His expression softened. "Come in." We watched it together on his laptop. The image was grainy but clear enough. 8:42 p.m. Snow swirling like static. Alice in her red sweater, knocking timidly on the door, rubbing her hands together, glancing back down the hall. Then, muffled voices, a woman's laughter, and faintly, from somewhere off-screen, Vanessa's voice. "She knows the way." Mr. Alvarez didn't say anything. He just swallowed hard and asked, "Do you want me to email this to you?" "Yes," I said, my throat tight. "Please." When I handed the file to Michael later that day, he actually exhaled audibly. "That's gold," he said. "Time-stamped, visual, audible. This changes everything." 2 days later, I received another surprise, a message from my cousin Renee, who hadn't spoken to me in years. Attached was a screenshot from the family group chat. Vanessa had written, "Had to put the fear in her." Mom had replied, "Actions teach better than words." The timestamp matched the video exactly. I stared at it for a long time before forwarding it to Michael. He called back an hour later, voice lighter. "Between this footage and the chat, their complaint collapses under its own weight. The board has what it needs." "What happens now?" I asked. "Now we wait for their response and consider pressing criminal charges. But remember, family cases crawl. Are you prepared for that?" I thought of Alice's small hands wrapping around her hot chocolate that night, her voice whispering, "You were at work." "Yes," I said, "I'm prepared." Days blurred together. Work, home, more waiting. HR called me in once. They'd seen the online rumors, but reassured me that my record was spotless. "We just need to document the context formally," my manager said carefully. "Standard procedure." Standard procedure. The phrase doctors use when they're scared to promise a cure. I left her office shaking. Rage trembled through me like caffeine. When I got home, Alice was building a tower of blocks on the floor. "Hey, Mom," she said. "Look, it's a hospital." I smiled, even as my chest tightened. "You're better at it than I am." "Can I name it?" "Sure." She thought for a second. "The safe place." The words nearly undid me. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying every version of my family's betrayal, each insult disguised as advice, each bruise rebranded as love. For years, I'd believed them when they said I was too emotional, too dramatic, too much. But maybe being too much was what saved my daughter. A week later, my phone rang again. Michael's voice carried a rare note of triumph. "They've issued a finding." I held my breath. "Case dismissed," he said. "Lack of evidence. The board won't pursue it. We're sending a formal defamation warning. They won't risk another complaint." For a second, I couldn't move. The world just quieted. "That's it?" "That's it," he said. "You're in the clear." I laughed. It started small and then grew until it filled the room. The kind of laughter that comes after months of holding your breath. Alice peeked around the corner, puzzled. "What's funny?" "Justice," I said. "It finally showed up." She grinned, proud like she'd conjured it herself. After I hung up, I sat at my desk and looked at the neatly labeled folders. Evidence, statements, reports. Proof of everything they tried to destroy. I could have deleted it. Instead, I kept it all, archived under one name, for Alice. Because someday when she's old enough, I want her to know that silence isn't peace, that truth sometimes hides in small, blinking red lights, and that family doesn't mean loyalty when loyalty costs your safety. Through the window, snow had started again, soft, relentless, and cleansing. The world looked exactly as it had the night everything broke, except this time, the cold was outside. Inside, it was finally warm. 6 months later, the news came in pieces. Not from a courtroom, Not from a dramatic announcement, just a call from Michael one gray morning while I packed Alice's lunch. "They've been charged," he said. "Misdemeanor assault and child endangerment for Vanessa. Reckless endangerment and neglect for your mother." I stopped mid-slice, apple in hand. "They're actually going to trial?" "Already did," he said. "You'll like the judge's tone. He told them they were lucky the child was still alive." It wasn't satisfaction I felt. It was gravity, the kind that settles after years of floating through disbelief. A week later, I saw the local paper. The article was small, hidden near the bottom of the community section. 2 women convicted of child endangerment and assault. Names withheld for privacy, but initials told the truth. Everyone who mattered could read between the lines. The sentences were light: community service, fines, mandatory counseling, but the damage was heavier than any jail time. Their reputations cracked. The social circle that used to revolve around my mother's brunch table went silent. Vanessa's friends ghosted her group chat, the same one where she'd once bragged about teaching lessons. Then came the photo, sent to me by a cousin I barely spoke to. Vanessa, sorting clothes at the community center, fluorescent vest labeled "Volunteer" half hidden under her coat. Her face was tight, expression somewhere between fury and exhaustion. I didn't feel joy exactly, just symmetry. My mother's fall was quieter. No more wellness retreats, no beach selfies captioned healing. Without my payments, she and Dad had to talk about selling the house. Simplifying, she called it in her Christmas letter. Translation: broke. Dad emailed me once. Not a call, not a visit, just an email at midnight, as if shame required darkness. "Marilyn, I wanted you to know I didn't agree with what they did. I should have stopped them. I thought it was just another argument. I'm sorry." I stared at that message for an hour before replying. "I know you didn't throw her out, but you also didn't open the door." He wrote back 2 words. "You're right." I never answered. Some nights I wonder if forgiveness is just another form of silence, and whether peace requires both. Alice and I are still no contact. Our lives moved on in smaller, quieter ways. She laughs more now, louder too, as if she's reclaiming all the sound we lost. She's 8, reading chapter books at the kitchen table, leaving sticky syrup fingerprints everywhere. Last month, she brought home a school essay titled "A Time I Felt Brave." I expected to see something about a playground or a spelling bee. Instead, she wrote, "I told the police what happened. I wasn't scared because Mom was next to me." I had to put the paper down before the words blurred. Every week, something new reminds me of how far we've come. The first time she asked to sleep without the nightlight. The morning she drew a picture of our safe house and taped it to the fridge beside the old stick figures. The day she asked if we could invite her teacher over for pancakes, because good people should come to our house. Sometimes she still asks, "Do Grandma and Aunt Vanessa miss me?" I tell her the truth. Maybe, but missing someone doesn't make you safe for them. That's the lesson I wish someone had taught me earlier. In the evenings, I walk past the window and see the neighbor's doorbell camera still blinking red. Same quiet watcher that captured everything months ago. Now, when its light flickers, I don't feel haunted. It's just there, steady, harmless, a reminder that truth doesn't disappear, even when people want it to. My apartment has grown into something that finally feels like ours. No tension lurking under the floorboards, no phone vibrating with guilt. I used to fill silence with noise, music, TV, work, anything to drown out my own thoughts. Now, quiet feels like healing. Still, there are moments. Little flashes of the past sneaking through the edges, like when I hear a child crying in the grocery store and my body still tenses, waiting for someone to call it discipline. Or when the phone rings from an unknown number and I half expect my mother's voice to slice through the line. But the longer we stay in peace, the easier it gets. A few weeks ago, I received a letter from the community center. It was signed by the coordinator, thanking me for donating children's books on behalf of the volunteers completing their service hours. I knew exactly who that meant. For a second, I almost smiled. Vanessa's hands, sorting boxes of stories about kindness and empathy, poetic justice, the soft kind. I didn't reply, but I kept the letter. Some endings don't need applause, they just need closure. I've been asked by colleagues, by friends online, whether I regret cutting them off, whether it felt like revenge. It wasn't revenge. Revenge is about hurting back. This was about ending harm. Every transfer I canceled, every phone call I ignored, every door I locked, it wasn't punishment. It was protection. Boundaries are just the shape love takes when it's finally honest. Last night, after dinner, Alice curled up next to me on the couch, her head on my shoulder. "Mom," she said sleepily, "you're not scared anymore." It took me a second to answer. "No," I said quietly, "not anymore." Outside, the snow started falling again. Soft, steady, endless. The world turning white like a blank page. I thought about that first night. The bruise on her cheek. The red light blinking in the dark hallway. All the ways silence had disguised itself as peace, and how loud truth had to get before anyone listened. In the end, justice didn't roar. It arrived quietly, step by step, like snowfall, cold, inevitable, cleansing. And for the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop. I was just home.